Hello, this is Brian P., and welcome to Scaling the Well. Passion is bad. You clicked on this, so you downloaded it or you're streaming this. And yeah, that's the title because it can be. And why do I say that? Well, passion, it's always mentioned is such a lovely thing, he has a passion for this, she has a passion for that. When you go throughout history, passion is mentioned as the thing that's kind of a muse when it comes to art. Or when you look, love there's always passion associated with love. Even when people choose careers or when they're in their careers, people talk about passion, people following their passion and passion this and passion that. And let me say this, okay? The title's a little bit misleading. Passion isn't bad, but like anything else, it's good within its limits. It's a necessity for a lot of things, but I don't think it should be the key determining factor in decision making. And that's going to be the point of this podcast. So let's just get into it for a second. What is passion? Well, passion is what? It's a drive. It's something that attracts you to something. It's borderline obsession. If you truly have passion for a person or a thing or an idea, it's something that you are willing to sacrifice for. And I think that's where it gets its good connotation, because sacrifice in a lot of circumstances is a very good and noble thing. But passion, taken to the extreme, is almost an addiction, and it can burn you out and it can lead you down wrong paths. So let's just go through a couple of things that I'm talking about. So let's just start with career. So yes, it's good for people to have a passion and to follow it to the extreme. So if you have a passion for medicine and you become a doctor, that's a great thing. If you have a passion for art, or if you have a passion, for teaching, we need teachers, we need doctors, So, but I don't know if passion is the same thing as a calling. So, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later when we talk about relationships, but passion is something, it's kind of like, it's the starter switch on a car, it's the thing it's the explosion that gets you moving. But you don't want that explosion throughout your drive. You want a nice, easy drive with minimal effort, or not minimal effort, but I should say, minimal concern. You should get into a groove, and which is like a relationship. And so you should have a relationship with your career. You should have a relationship with pretty much anything in your life, and the passion is just to get it started. And I have another example that I'll get to a little bit later, but let's just talk about like somebody who works a 9-to-5 job and then somebody who's an entrepreneur. So I've talked about this in other podcasts, people who are entrepreneurs. And I would say, man, I have family, my sister's an entrepreneur, owns a boutique, I always give her a shout out, Black Boutique, go shop there, El Dorado Hills. I have most of my male friends here in San Diego. Well, not most of them. I should say probably a good portion of them have some sort of business. And a lot of them have like their own martial arts schools. I know a couple people have food trucks. I know one guy who has a swimming facility, but it's catered to like an elderly population, but he actually, but they have money, so he does pretty good. I had a friend who had a paintball facility here in San Diego, and she moved on to the East Coast where she's starting up other businesses. So I know entrepreneurs, and they're in my life, and trust me, they have a lot of passion. And the one thing about them, though, is that if you work for somebody like that, I tell you, it can be very, very exhausting. And if anybody who has a boss who owns the business, it's not just like a manager and you're working for a giant corporation. sometimes you can see that, that they have this drive, and sometimes they know how to express it well, but sometimes, they might not express it so well. And I've seen friends, who are just tight and thick as thieves, who had businesses together, fall apart because they both had this passion, and with passion becomes individual vision. But if those visions don't align, things just start to fall apart. They start to argue. They start to fight. People with a lot of passion, it's hard to be good at, and this is a cliche, but it's hard to be the best at more than one thing. So if you have a passion and you want to be the best at something, and that's your business, well, then sometimes your family life suffers, because how can you be the best at this business and then be the best father, be the best husband, be the best son, daughter, or whatever? You kind of let things slip. And sometimes people get away with that because if your business is successful, a lot of people, you might be their meal ticket, or you might be somebody who's, at least contributing a lot to the family in a financial way, but your presence isn't there. So there's a lot of kids who've grown up with, parents who had all this passion for their careers. And again, it could be an entrepreneur, and it could be some other profession where they were very set financially, and their parents don't understand why there's still this kind of resentment, and then it becomes this thing of, are they, ingrates? They're ungrateful for what they did, and so what the parents did for the kids, I should say. So yeah, it can be very stressful, even if you're an employee. I would help people with their businesses, and sometimes I would do it for free, because I like hanging out with my friends, and a lot of times people would ask me, how come you don't charge them more? So sometimes I would just charge a little bit. When I was doing marketing for some of the companies that my friends had, I would either charge them something very menial, not nearly what somebody would typically charge them for like a big campaign. Or I would just kind of, if they just needed a press release or some kind of teaser write up or something to put on their website, I would just do it for free, knock it out in an hour, and boom. So why didn't I charge them? Because I didn't want them to, think that I was an employee. Because people with passion, they start to think that, like, hey, I'm paying you for this, and this is what I want. I'm like, no, I never wanted that. And I would see it happen with my other friends and other people who ended up working for some of my other friends who work for friends. And what happens is the entrepreneur doesn't understand, that this is his baby, and why don't you have as much passion for his baby as he does or she does? And the thing is, and I would tell them, and sometimes I would mediate, between two individuals, the entrepreneur and another one of my friends, or sometimes it would be on my own behalf, because they would say, hey, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. And I'm like, and it might be on a Saturday, and I got other plans, and I'm just like, hey, look, no, I don't have as much passion for you or baby as you do. And if I did, and I said this on another podcast, either if it's your baby and I have as much passion for it as you do, either you're a bad parent because you don't have enough passion, or I'm a sucker because I'm giving more attention to something that you created, and that I'm really not going to profit from in the future. Because if somebody comes along and purchases that company, or you hit the stratosphere with your success, are you going to give me like a percentage of that company? No. If nothing's on paper, the passion is yours. It's all yours. You can keep it. I'm always going to be supportive of you, but I'm going to do it on my terms. So, and you have to set up boundaries with that. And passion plays a key role in there, because they can't see that. Passion blinds people. They don't, that should be common sense, but it isn't. And then for people who work a 9 to 5, and they have passion for something else, well, you would say, well, passion always works. Well, passion can be stifling, they could end up resenting their job and sometimes quitting a job when they shouldn't, because, and again, I know that there's a lot of people, there's a guy out there doing motivational speeches right now saying, look, if you hate your job, you should quit. And man, I'm just too old school for that. I'm like, look, I live in San Diego where the medium house price is like 600 grand. If you can quit your job if you want, you better be one talented SOB because it's harder to earn a living these days. And I think a job, even again, if the job is just torture, that's one thing. But if a job is just kind of meh, but it's paying your bills and you have goals are what make your current situation bearable. That's what I always say. So use your passion and try to accomplish goals, but you don't necessarily have to abandon everything that you have, and live on the street, in order to see those goals met. And sometimes just having a job that's meh, as long as it's feeding you and keeping a roof over your head, that's kind of what you need to do more often than not, to see those goals realized. And I know a lot of people, passion will make you quit. I want to be a writer, and I'm talking from experience. I got a pretty secure job when I was out of college. Well, actually a few years out of college. And, it was tough. It was my first real job. I had, other jobs, but it was my first job where you could call me a professional. And it's not really what I wanted to do, and it was hard, and, I had to do the whole 9-to-5 thing. I had to dress right and blah, blah, blah. And I really wanted to, and I'd been in magazines before and stuff like that, and that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to write, and I quit. So I'm not speaking from a place of ignorance. And then when I realized that I couldn't support myself by writing, like how many times do you have to sell yourself as a writer? Because it's not like you see on TV and in the movies where somebody, unless you're just super successful, unless you're that 1% where you can just, a magazine hires you and you just write for them and you can make enough money off your monthly article, or one or two articles to pay you. They're going to pay you, $10,000 a month for one article. That's ridiculous. You better be one of the best writers on earth, and what I'm literally saying that because there's not too many of them. Typically what happens in writing is that you have to shop around. Some people might want an exclusive. You could charge a little more, but then you have to write other articles for other media outlets that each will pay you separately. So you're hoping that you can get a reputation. You can have like 6 or 7 media outlets paying you a decent amount per month to where you can support yourself. So it almost becomes a sales job. You're almost kind of like, you're an entrepreneur, so you become an entrepreneur. But then I realized, what? I could have a steady job and write. Why does having a 9-to-5 keep you from writing? And I can have, and then I'm also not stressed. I'm not worried about it. I can write. And if I feel like writing, I write. And if I don't feel like writing, I don't write. And it's not going to affect, me being able to pay my mortgage. It's not going to affect me being able to, have a car, or any of the other expenses that come with just being an adult. So I followed my passion. Fortunately for me, it was only a 7-month mistake because my former job hired me back 7 months later when I kind of, and reality hit me. And so I didn't pay too much for that, but a lot of people do. And, and so be careful of that. But it also passion can also make you depressed because if you think that it can make you think the grass is always greener somewhere else. And that's in all things. It can be with your job. It can be with relationships. Passion is not, well, let's just get into relationships really quick. So, and here's the analogy that I always use. Passion is an accelerant. Passion, and again, I always say this every podcast. If you can remember one thing, remember this. Passion is like lighter fluid. And if you ever barbecued, lighter fluid, when you pour it on the flames, It's this big explosion. It's exciting when you're a kid. You know, you keep wanting your dad or your uncle to keep pouring more lighter fluid. You'll even pick up the can yourself. I remember like the old school lighter fluid that come in the can. You, boom, you know, because you like seeing that. The problem is you can't cook on that. You need that even, slow, smoldering coals to cook on. And it's the same thing when it comes to passion versus actual love in a relationship. Because everybody feels that big bang when you meet somebody new, they're attractive. You know, it could be at a bar, it could be on Tinder, it could be wherever. It could be, you know, you're the new person at work, the new person at school, they're the new person or in whatever, and you have this, you know, what they call chemistry. You know, how many, and I hate to say this, it's usually women say this, you know, didn't, you know, pursue this guy farther because there was no chemistry, you know, there was no spark. That's what basically they're saying, that there was a lack of passion at first. You know, there wasn't this infatuation that, you know, this animal thing that makes you want to take things forward, even though you don't know what lies ahead. You don't want to take the time to see because there isn't this thing. There's a lot of problems with that. The first problem is there's a lot of guys out there who are very good at manufacturing passion. They're very good at manufacturing sparks. You know, if you call it chemistry, then you can call these guys chemists. And these guys are very good at that. They're not good. They're very good at the first 3 months. They're not good for the next 20 years, 30 years, you know, however long you would think that a lasting relationship, a lasting marriage should last. So that leads people down the wrong path, especially a lot of women that I know. You know, they get all caught up, and that's what, you know, that's what they call it, getting caught up. If you got caught up, that's passion. That's passion leading you down a road that, you know, you should have turned left, but you went right. So remember, it's lighter fluid. And now, why is passion necessary? Well, because it's motivating. You know, if there's no passion, a lot of people wouldn't do anything, you know, or you'd be less enthusiastic about a lot of things. But passion is also drama. So the third thing I would mention, you know, we talked about careers, we talked about relationships. So something that would cover both is the drama. And I talked a little bit about it. We talk about the entrepreneur wanting people to have the same passion for his company. You know, Bill Gates. I just read or saw a story that came out that he used to walk around, you know, when Microsoft first opened and take down the license plate so he knew who was staying late at work. And then he would know who left. And it's not that he was upset at the people who were leaving early. No, people who left on time but just weren't staying late, and he was getting rid of them. If you left, so if you worked until 5 and you were scheduled to work till 5, but you didn't stay late, you were gone. And that's a culture in Korea. A lot of people do that. That's a culture in Japan. You know, and that's even, I don't even think it's a passion thing with them. I think that's just their culture. But and I talked to a manager that I oversee about this, and because she has such high expectations for some of her employees, and I was just like, well, you know, let me tell you about myself, and this goes back to a little bit on my last podcast about dinks, you know, double income, no kids, because I was single for so long, and then when I got married, I didn't have children. It enabled me a lot of opportunities to sign up for those special projects. You know, if something came in where somebody had to work late, I could be like, yeah, I'll do it, you know. And because of that, I got promoted quicker and I advanced very fast. But, you know, if somebody has a kid, you know, they can't do that, you know. You know, and so if you're working for somebody who with a lot of passion, they're going to expect you to be that person. So then not only are they, when I was talking about before, not only are they sacrificing being the best at their business, in spite of perhaps their family, they want you to do it too. So, and now and maybe you just want a job, and so that can affect you there. It can slow your advancement, and in certain cases, it could get you fired, because if they think that you're, the person who's 5 minutes early is still late, and that's not a good way to think. So we talked about passion as far as life, as far as career, as far as relationships, and I think we should just remember, it is a thing of that. It's a social construct that we've manufactured and that we praise pretty much. This person is so passionate for this, is so passionate for that, but again, it causes drama, and it's supposed to be temporary, right? It's the lighter fluid. And what I mean by drama, again, I mentioned a few examples, but, a lot of jealousy comes from passion. People who are truly in love, they're not looking at each other's phones and who are you texting, that's passion talking, that's not love. Real love is actually work. It's actually effort, devoted towards a commitment over time. That's what love is. I don't know if that's what your dictionary says, but I just came up with it, and so I'm trademarking that now. Yeah, so it's basically effort, devoted towards commitment over time. So it's not something that can happen in a week. You can't love somebody in a week. It's something that develops, and you continue to put effort in it. And actually, effort is a required component, because when you love somebody, it's work. Because you got to deal with each other, and your goals are going to have to align somewhat, and you support each other in those goals. So, passion is basically just, I really want you, and that other person might want you back, and that's fun. Passion's fun. Passion's great to write about. Half the pop music, that's ever existed is about passion, and the other parts are about love, or at least what people think is love, and it's probably about passion too, because they don't know what love is. That's why I used to like gangster rap music, because it was the only thing that was kind of different. It wasn't about love. It was just about thuggery. It was just a break from the cliches of music. But it's passion. Okay, in the end, is passion bad? It can be. It's like any other drug, and let's be real. These are chemicals in your brain that are compelling you to certain actions. And like any other chemical, you can get addicted to it, or it leads to bad decisions, poor judgment. You don't have to be an alcoholic to get a DUI, to make a bad decision. So yes, today's topic was passion. If I can just end this, I would say passion in moderation. Thank you. This has been Scaling the Well.